Hi, welcome to this virtual workshop. I'm your host, Alyssa Bird, owner and designer of Regenerous Designs. I'm here to walk you through all the steps to make your very own textile and wood wall art piece. Okay, let's begin. You should have all the pieces you need in your kit, and then also included in there is this list of other tools that are not included in your list, like a hammer, glue, fabric scissors, ruler, other things like that. So check that out and make sure you have all of these before you begin. Now, if you've got all your tools, let's get started. Today I'm going to be making the flower, but you have the option of the cross, or the flower, or the cactus, or the circle. This one's not quite done yet. Whatever design you've chosen, all of the steps are basically the same, so it really doesn't matter which one you've chosen to follow along with. First step is to remove the tape from the back of your design, and you want to remove it so that all of the pieces stick to the tape. So kind of pop them out from the front and peel it off the back. And that just makes it easier for when you're going to put the shapes back in to remember which shape went where, especially with this flower that has a lot of shapes that look very similar. Little side note, some of the pieces have a little bit of a brownish tint to the top of the wood, and that is from the laser machine cutting it out because it's kind of burning the wood as it cuts. So if you don't like that look, just take a wet rag and it'll wipe right off, and the wood will be more white. So that's just personal preference. You don't have to do it, but if you want it to look cleaner and brighter and whiter, feel free to just take a little rag and wipe that right off. One more tip, in your little bag of tools, of supplies, there's a little piece of sandpaper, and that is only if some of the pieces seem rough around the edges or anything like that, or the surface just feels a little slightly rough. You can just take that and just like slightly use it to smooth anything down. Another thing to take note of is the direction of all the little shapes. So when you're going to put it in, you're making sure that it's going in the right direction and the right side is face up. So when the front is facing down, then you want to make sure the piece that you're putting in is also facing down. And you can test it out before you put it in, or you can see on some of them, like the front side is a little whiter and the back side has different burn marks on it. But if you can't tell, then just test it out and make sure that it's in the right direction, especially with the cactus, because these are all kind of oval shapes. Sometimes if it's slightly turned a little crooked, it's not going to go in smoothly, and if you force it in, you might break it. So that way you can kind of like turn it slightly and see if you can feel that it's in the right direction, and then that's when you can push it further to go in all the way. And one other thing, I like to get a piece of paper to work on, for one, so it's a nice white background so you can see your piece clearly, but also because it's great for collecting all the little fabric fuzz, and then you can put it in your bowl or put it in a little trash thing or something and keep your space clean while you work. It makes it a little easier for cleanup afterwards. So next step is deciding what fabric colors you want to make your design out of. You might want to place a fabric underneath and then just kind of see how that will look, and then once you've found a spot that you like the way the pattern is in there, let's see, I think I'm going to start with this shape. So make sure you've got the right shape that goes in that pattern, and then you flip it over all together. Now remember where your shape is, and place the pattern or the matching piece right on top and squish it down. It should fit right in like a puzzle. So with these knits that are really stretchy and they stretch wide, you can kind of see through them, or any of the chiffons that are see-through, you can place a sparkly fabric behind it, which is fun, so it'll give it a little extra flair. or if you want to just place a white fabric behind it, makes it a little more matte. And the thinner fabrics like this chiffon, they definitely need at least 2 layers of fabric, so something behind it to make it just a little bit thicker. Otherwise it's too slippery and the piece will slide right through your design, and you don't want to do that because then you'll have to cut another one and make a new piece. So otherwise, if the fabric's a little bit thicker, like this sparkly for instance, it's a little bit thicker, you do not need to put anything behind that. So kind of feel what your fabrics feel like, and if it feels like it's gonna slide right through, then put something behind it. But with these, you also don't want anything extra behind this because then it'll be too thick and you won't be able to get your piece in. Okay, now I'm gonna show you how to keep the placement where you want it when you're flipping the piece over. I'm going to keep a hold of, it's a little bit trickier when you're using 2 fabrics together. So since this is see-through, I can kind of hold it in place, flip it over. I don't want to move this hand until I'm ready, but I can see through it so I can still see where my shape is and make sure that placement is still where I want it. And then take this other layer, place it on top. I always like to go near the edge so I can conserve the fabric. And then hold that down so it doesn't move. Take the shape, make sure it's facing in the right direction. Got both corners. Okay, there we go. Now I could feel that went in a little bit better, and then use this to smooth it down a little bit more. And yeah, I like the placement of that, so I'm gonna flip it over again, use my hammer to lightly tap it in a little bit more, and then double check, and then take my scissors and cut the fabric off the back. And this is fine to leave it a little bit messier because these shapes are already in their places, so it doesn't matter. And then make sure it's even more secure and flush in there on the front. I'm going to use this fabric, and if you find that piece you like, put your hand under it and then flip it over. Keep your hand there and keep it in place. Get your piece in the right direction. Feel where the hole is. Kind of press it in a little bit, and then get your hole to press it in even further. It's not in all the way. It's still slightly poking out, but that's okay because you want to double check that you like the placement of that. So I'm going to flip it back over. Give it a little tap. Press it in, and then use my scissors, poke a hole, and cut around it. There we go. Finished piece. Okay, now it's time to attach the front to the back. For this, take a look at the back piece and notice there are 2 dots on one side of it, and that is the center of whichever direction you want it to hang. Like the flower, for instance, can go either way. If you want it to hang this way, it looks great, or you can hang it this way. So that's the only one that really has like good options. The circle you can hang anyway as well. So wanted to give you those options, but make sure you use this as the back side, so don't glue your thing on this side. Flip it over. And the gluing part, I just put a little bit of glue. Get your wood glue out, kind of lather it all over. Not too much, but enough to cover the whole shape. I like to use a paintbrush to do this, but you can use your finger or whatever you want. And then I just take it and I kind of make sure the glue is saturated around each of the shapes. This isn't necessarily to hold it onto the back, it's just more to make sure that it's securely together and to help it stay on the back too. But this is just by the happenstance of anything, so nothing's gonna ever move around, ever. It's gonna be super secure. So we did that, and now flip it over. Let's find where the center is, and then we'll get all the little bindings out of this bag. So in your kit, you should receive some of these little tack nails, a bunch of tiny nails, and one larger nail. So the larger nail is just to put a pilot hole for the tinier nails to go through. It makes it a lot easier to tack everything in when you've got a hole started. You can decide where you want your tacks to go. You always want to make sure we've got one on each end to hold it down, because obviously it's still bowing, so we need to flatten it out. Make a mark. Then I'm going to take the larger nail. Make sure you're holding your piece down firmly with the other hand. And then for this, take your hammer. I'm going to go tap once, wiggle it. That didn't really do much. 2, wiggle it out. Maybe one more time. You don't want this one to go very far in, otherwise it'll be very hard to get out. So this is just to create a pilot hole for this to go in. Hold that down. There we go. So now we'll add the little nails. And you don't have to use all of these. Again, there's extra just in case you lose one or drop one or anything like that. This is where you get to be creative too and decide where you want the placement of all your little added details to go. My pilot hole. Maybe do it one more time. That should be good. Okay, and this is where the pliers come in handy, because these nails are so tiny, they're really hard to hold. So I hold it with the pliers to keep your fingers out of the way. Start hammering it in, and so it goes in straight too. So now we're going to attach the hanging on the back. I would take a towel or another thicker piece of fabric, lay it down so that, because you're putting your beautiful artwork face down, you don't want to get it scratched up or dirty, and because it's an uneven surface, so it gives it a little bit of padding. And find what direction you want it to hang from. I'm going to go ahead and go with this one. Grab your sawtooth hanger. There should be little indents on each side of the center dot. So find where those are and place your hanger in there. And go ahead, make sure it's in the proper direction so that the teeth are down. And grab a hammer. And evenly hammer both sides. Now grab this little triangle and your wood glue. Place it center on the opposite end of the hanger. It will lay flush against the wall. So this is just to balance out this from sticking out of the wall. Now your artwork is complete. You can go ahead and hang it on your wall.
Well, congrats! You did it! Awesome job! I hope you enjoyed this and had so much fun getting creative. I would love to see you proudly showing off your beautiful artwork. Please post a pic and tag Regenerous Designs on social media so we can cheer for you and admire your mad skills.